Hi, I'm here at the APS Stamp Show in Sacramento, California. And this video will be on and about the recession and inflation and how it affects the stamp market. So we could be in a recession. Politically, economically we are. We've had 2 quarters of reduced GDP and basically we're not doing so hot on economic input and output. So whether you want to argue on whether there's a recession or not is a political question which you can address in another video. Inflation, there's no question we have inflation. We're running about 8.5% inflation right now reported, and it's probably higher. In the stamp market, we're seeing about 20% inflation. Prices have gone up about 20%. So here we are at the APS booth. Say hi. So the question is, how does this affect? The question is, how does this affect the overall stamp market, and what should we do about it? Because they're 2 totally different things. If we're in a recession, people are cutting back on their spending. A lot of it is because they may be losing their jobs, their incomes may have been cut in some way, or they have some sort of expense issues. Even if you're on a fixed income, you tend to cut down on your spending during a recession. During inflation, historically, stamps have done really good during inflation. They've been a good hedge against inflation. So you have a dropping market if there's a recession, and an increasing market if there's inflation. And the question is, which one is going to be bigger? Which one is going to affect the stamp market? So I'm going to use 2 examples. One, we had a really big recession. They called it the Great Recession, and it was in 2008. And in the 2008 recession, we had a significant drop in the stamp market. It could be as high as 25 or 30%, but it really depends on what you're dealing with. Whether you're dealing with eBay items or whether you're dealing with auction prices, they're both totally different. During the 1972 hyperinflation or stagflation, we had stamp prices, well, for an example, US number 1 started at $67.50. In 1982, it went all the way up to $900. So there was a huge increase. But then after it hit $900, it dropped down to its current level, which today is $350. I believe that that is very low. It should be higher than $350. And I'll explain that later. But you have 2 totally different things. If there is a recession with no inflation, people are going to change the way that they spend money. Generally speaking, they're going to cut back on the stamps that they purchase. In times of high inflation, people are going to be buying stamps which will preserve their purchasing power. These tend to be the more popular stamps. I was talking about US number 1 because I think US number 1 is what I call a prestige item. Everybody wants a US number 1 who is a US collector. Everybody wants a Great Britain number 1 if you're a stamp collector at all, because it's the first stamp that was ever issued. Those are 2 examples of prestige items. I'm walking through the APS exhibits now. Everything here is a prestige item. So people want to buy items which are going to go up in value hopefully faster than inflation, but definitely at least with inflation.
Good morning, it's now 9:45. The show floor will be open in 15 minutes. The show floor will be open in 15 minutes.
So what is your strategy? Well, if you think that it is only going to be a recession, and let's argue that there may well be a recession. There's arguments, but if there is a recession, you're going to see the demand for stamps, especially at the lower levels, drop rather significantly as people cut back on their spending. We're not going to argue whether there's inflation. We can argue as to how much, but there's definitely inflation. So people are going to be buying items which will go up in value at least 8.5%. Lately, stamp prices have gone up about 20%. They went back a little bit when the recession numbers came out, but they're still up consistently about 20%. So as a strategy, and again, who can predict what's going to happen, but it's my opinion that if it's a recession, you want to, if you can afford it, take this as a buying opportunity. Prices are going to drop. If there's inflation, you want to take advantage of what happened in the 1970s, because stamp prices are going to be increasing a lot. So that's about it from the APS Stamp Show in Sacramento.